Hello, I'm your host Anna Clements, and this is Audiobooks with Anna. In this episode, we chatted with Val Kelly, owner of the Mid Atlantic VoiceOver Conference, all about MAVO 2023. Tickets for next year's conference are already on sale. This episode was recorded before MAVO 2023, and Val told us what we could expect.
Thank you very much, everybody, for being here and for joining us this afternoon, this morning, this evening, wherever you are. I've got the absolute pleasure of chatting with Val Kelly, who is the founder and owner of Mid Atlantic VoiceOver, LLC. And we're here to find out a bit more about Val and answer any questions you might have about the upcoming conference, which was the first conference I ever went to. So Val, welcome to Clubhouse, and thank you very, very much for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
If you would you take us back a moment to before all of this, Val? Tell us about where you grew up, how you got into voice, and why voice acting?
Oh, gosh. Okay. Well, I grew up with a very creative father who instilled in me from a very young age a very active imagination and just raised me with the ability to create a lot of different characters automatically from the time I was a kid. So we were always playing games and just inventing things. And that's kind of how the creative mind I have started, if we go way back. And then from there, I also just had this unique voice that everyone always commented on from the time I was a little kid. And it's funny because when I was really little, 4 years old, 4 or 5, maybe 4, my voice was scratchy, like a frog, like it was, and that's where the squacky came from. That's my nickname. So my dad called me Squack because I would wake up from a nap or something and I would be like all scratchy. It still happens when in the morning, it's still really scratchy. So, and then as I got older, it got kind of high pitched. And so I just went with that and people commented on it. And then later on in my life, when I was getting done with college, my dad saw this ad for a class that was an intro to voiceover. And he was like, you really don't have anything to lose. Like, maybe go check it out and see what it's all about. So I went to this class, and it was actually a commercial voiceover class. So the guy who was running the class was very, I don't know really how to describe him. He was a great guy. He just said, your voice is really unique, and we recorded some stuff. And he said, if I think you have a future in this industry, I'll give you a call. And you kind of think at that point, like, is this for real? Because, he's probably not going to call. And so the next day, I was actually working in a hotel at the time at the front desk, just in between getting done with college and getting a job as a French teacher. And so I'm at the front desk, the phone rings, this guy calls and he goes, "What are you doing with your life? You're not meant to be answering the phone at a front desk." He's like, "You need to be, in LA doing animation, doing all this." And, it was exciting and things like that. But then I went through training with this company to get, voiceover training. And I just didn't really know what to do with my demo when I finished all of that. So I didn't have the marketing skills to go along with it. And so my demo just sat on a shelf for years, and I was calling radio stations and they were like, "Yeah, your voice is really cute. You should go to LA." And sometimes I think back and go, why didn't I go to LA? But you can't go backwards, right? So that's how I got started in voiceover. And then for Mid Atlantic VoiceOver, I just had been in the industry on and off for years. In 2011, I got really into it full time, got back into it, started training with another studio who helped me kind of get my foot really in the door and start booking work. And then I went to VoiceOver Atlanta one year. I think this was about 2013 maybe was when I went to VO Atlanta, and was really inspired by what was happening there with all of the sessions and everything. And I thought, in the Mid-Atlantic region of DC, Virginia, Maryland, we have a lot of voice actors probably, and there's not a lot of training or possibilities for people to train with people. So that's when I decided to start my own company. And I just really it was a very spur of the moment type of scenario. But then I talked it out and went home and said, I'm going to start my own company. And my husband thought I was crazy. And and the rest is history.
I love that. I just want to take you back a second to the curiosity and imagination that got you into voiceover, kind of messing around at home. And would you say your father was kind of your biggest fan, that support was what led to kind of you believing that you should and could move into the industry?
Absolutely. My dad actually, he passed away in 2009. So he kind of wasn't around before I started for real in the industry in 2011, meaning like booking work. But he
Yeah.
was the biggest fan up to, that point of you should do something with it. And I always, he was so inspiring. I mean, I think in my lifetime, he's probably somebody who still to this day, even when he's not around, still continues to inspire me just because he always taught me to be, not only a kind person, which I really value a lot, is being kind to other people. That means so much to me, but also just using that creativity and following your dreams. It's so, we don't know how much time we have in life. And I think one of the things he always taught me was just, you have to go for it. You have this voice, you have this creativity in your head, this crazy imagination, and you have to use it, for something. So
I love that. And it is an absolute blessing, isn't it? We say here in the club so often that, we get to do this. You have to stop once in a while, don't you, and kind of pinch yourself to know that we get to be in an industry where we would be, even if, I mustn't say it out loud, but even if people didn't pay us, it's the kind of job that you just love so much. I am grateful to be doing it. It's wonderful. And I'm really interested in you saying that you didn't have the marketing skills to go with the voice, that you had like the talent, which again is a conversation we always have here about the importance of acknowledging and realizing how much business goes into the business of creating voices. Is that something you felt you had developed by the time you suddenly decided to take on a Mid-Atlantic conference?
kind of, it was something that I threw myself into it. I thought I developed this idea and I spent a lot of time working on, okay, I'm going to start my own company. What does that look like for me? And at that point, I also dove headfirst into, social media and exploring Twitter at the time, or whatever they call it now, and X or whatever. Um, but I threw myself into social media. That was my first kind of marketing attempt. And then I've just trained and learned along the way. And, yeah, there's a lot to running a business. And I think that's something that is something I'm continually developing those skills and learning lessons and getting better, because it's an ever changing industry, and running a small business is no joke. I mean, it's crazy, the stuff that you have to do to get people's attention. And I think the businesses that are most successful are the ones that are consistently out there, putting their brand out there and just kind of putting it in your face, but not to be done in an obnoxious way. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, very much so. And I appreciate that I got to know you possibly, 5 or 6 years after you had undertaken this thing. So by the time I met you, I met a very successful, very well put together, very organized person. But I'm fascinated to hear it wasn't always that way. And that's a lovely thing to hear, because it kind of gives everybody else hope, that it's about staying the course and trying new things. Because I'm aware that when I first went to it was every 2 years, and then it became every year. Was that a conscious? I know when I spoke to you initially, the very first time, you said you were too tired in between conferences to be able to run it the whole time. But did it make more sense, do you think, to have it be more consistent?
I think what's happened from 2014, 28 people showed up, and it was tiny, and I had no idea. Honestly, if I'm looking back, I had no idea what I was doing in 2014 when I started it. I'm surprised that anyone even showed up. It was an incredible event for what I put into it, but I learned a ton of lessons after that. And so 2014, 2015, 2016, yes, every year, and then 2017, we took the year off because I was wiped out. I was just completely, I didn't have anything left to give. But, then and then we did 2018, then 2019, we were going to take off. We took off because I had intended to go to an every other year format because I didn't want to, I didn't want to burn out, and just be like, well, that was a great event and now it's done because I can't, because I'm exhausted, But the problem with that was that then COVID happened. So we went to an online format for 2 years, for 2020 and 2021. And then, 2022 was a huge success. And I decided after the second virtual event that we had to go back to an every year format, because what has happened since we started in 2014 is that a billion other conferences have popped up everywhere, and so you have all of these other events. And I have something really special and unique in this DC area. There's not other events really that happen that are like this, that are boutique, that are, very, very specialized in voiceover. And so I feel that the minute I step back and say we're going to do every other year, I feel that that's the point when someone else might swoop in and say, oh, she's not doing it this year, I'll do one instead. Yeah, and I would lose it. And so that's what I don't want to happen. So the every year format is like you almost have to do it every year if you're going to keep it going, because the competition is huge.
And I think also people get used to thinking that they know how things work and that the cycle is yearly. Everybody else is doing it every year. And I think you're right that there is an issue there, that if there seems to be a gap in the market, because that Washington area, Washington, D.C., does seem to have there is a gap between New York and Atlanta that you filled beautifully with this boutique conference. Talk to us a minute about what that means, boutique, because I know it's the reason I love it, but I'm aware that a lot of the people I meet, particularly in audiobooks, tend to be a little more introverted than not, and huge groups are difficult. Talk to us about that choice.
I didn't want to create another VO Atlanta. I didn't want to copy exactly what was being done there. I didn't want to have 800 to 1,000 people, or at the time it was, 300 people, I think, when I was attending earlier. So I wanted to create something unique, like my voice. And yeah. I thought about it from a almost kind of selfish perspective, in the sense that I was like, what do I want out of this event? Because what do I feel comfortable with? Because I have to run this, because you know what I mean? So I wanted to have something where I felt comfortable running it. And I know that in the industry, there are tons of people that are introverted extroverts. You hear that term all the time, where it's like, well, I'm a voice actor and I love what I do. And if you ask me about that, I can talk to you about it all day. But if you ask me about something else, I might be kind of shy, So I wanted to create a safe space for people to not feel overwhelmed. That was one thing that was really high on the list of priorities for me, because when you keep it under 200 people, you have this much different boutique feel to it. I wanted it to be high quality with the top, tier industry pros that not only I wanted to learn from, but that I knew other people would want to learn from as well. So the unique thing about it is that we're still offering these high quality sessions that individually would cost upwards of $150 to $200 per hour with any of the coaches that we have, right? And some of the people that we have are not even coaching on the side. You know what I mean? So some of the people that I bring in are not people that you see on the everyday circuit of every conference that you go to. And that's on purpose, because I want it to be something that you can't get everywhere. And that's where you get the boutique feel. You get that sense of, wow, I just trained with Serena Irwin, who is a casting director who doesn't really do a lot of coaching on the side, or Colleen Evanson this year, who is a writer for animated shows and for some live action television, and getting the perspective of people like that who are going to offer you something totally unique and different from what you're going to get from a lot of the sessions you go to at other conferences where it's every, guest speaker has been to every conference. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just wanted to offer something different.
Let me just give the room a refresh. We're at the quarter past of the hour. Welcome to those who've joined us midway through. We're chatting with Val Kelly of the Mid Atlantic VoiceOver Conference. It runs this November 10 through 12 at Dulles, Washington. If you're on that East Coast, it's the very first conference I ever went to in 2016. I went again in 2018. And it is exactly as Val describes. The smaller size group makes you feel like you have a chance to actually stop and speak to people. It was a wonderful way for me to find out about all the different genres of voiceover and therefore be able to understand better where my voice fit and how I might pick and choose the different areas of the industry to be able to make a living and decide, where I could make more money or less money and where my interests lay. We talk often here, don't we, about how your personality and your interests often dictate the things that you are able then to participate in or take advantage of and enjoy. And certainly being relaxed and being in that. The thing I love about MAVO is the size of the conference itself allows for a much more at ease feel. There are much fewer people requiring a quiet corner because it is the same amount of space in a very well run hotel, but a much smaller group to choose from with regards to actually making friends. And I met people at 2016 in MAVO that I am still friends with, and I now meet at other conferences, and I'm hoping to see again at MAVO in November, that I'm thrilled to have made friends with and be able to have gone on this journey with. One thing I'm really glad to see this year, Val, is that you've been able to delegate a lot more. There seem to be several volunteers, as you call them, which I'm really pleased about. How have you found as a business owner that need and that requirement of being able to let things go and let other people help you? How has that progressed? How has that worked for you?
Yeah, so this kind of started happening at 2022 we've always had volunteers. Last year they became volunteers. I don't know how that progressed, but it just did. It just made sense. But yeah, I'm not good at delegating, in case you guys weren't sure. So I try to do everything myself, and it doesn't usually end that well because I get overwhelmed and then I can't do anything. So I finally took on an executive assistant in Sean Mahan, who gives me advice along the way, like, yes, this is a good idea that you have, or no, it's not, or how about we do this, or, so he's my main kind of assistant in the whole process. And he really, when it comes to the actual weekend of running the event, he really does a lot. So I delegated a lot to him to do in person at the event. And then, leading up to it, he's kind of in charge of overseeing, the schedule that the volunteers are doing. And then I have Holly Adams and Carmen Wilson, who are my lead volunteers, who are making the schedule and kind of, working together with Sean to make sure everything is in place as far as who's running the registration and who's at the help desk and who, because my job at the event is more running around and making sure everything is going smoothly in every aspect of the event. I can't delegate that to someone. These people can help me with it, but I'm very much a hands-on type of person who wants to be, this is my baby. Like, this event is my baby. So I take a lot of pride in what I do with it. And so it's, like I said, hard for me to delegate, but I have delegated for it last year and for this year. And that takes a lot off my plate because then I can because part of the point of starting this conference was to not only be able to have people come in and have attendees come in and enjoy it, but also to be able to learn new things myself and to participate in the sessions, which you don't see a lot of times the conference owners being able to do at events, right? They're mostly running around making sure everything is going well. And I do run around and make sure everything is going well. But there are certain sessions, if I'm like, I want to go to this one, I don't want anyone to bother me. Like, this is my time to learn and grow as an actor. And, that's why I have Sean, who just kind of will take over and run whatever's going on at that point. And my volunteers, they know, like, unless the building is burning down, don't bother her, like, during the session. So that was why delegating became so important to me, because I wanted to be able to go to sessions and learn as well, because I put so much time into organizing this that I wanted to be able to get something out of it too,
Absolutely. I've just taken the liberty, if anybody wants to pull to refresh, which is sort of drag down on your screen, and you'll see at the top of the screen, I've linked the VoiceOver Conference website, and 2 tabs across is the schedule that's running. Talk to us a second about the schedule that you run, because you do run it slightly differently to some of the other conferences. Sorry to put words in your mouth, but you have the general, the breakout, and the mastery sessions. Talk to us a second about how you came up with that and how that works.
Yeah, so the way this year is the first, so let me go backwards for a second. Just 2022, what we did was the first year that we offered mastery sessions. So before that, we only offered general sessions, which are included with your general admission ticket, and then breakout sessions, which are 90-minute sessions limited to 12 attendees each. In 2022, we only offered mastery sessions, which are 3-hour sessions on the Friday of the event. And we didn't offer any other sessions. We didn't offer general sessions or breakout sessions. It was literally just, you're coming in for Friday if you just want to do mastery sessions before the event really started. And then this year for 2023, because people's feedback was, if you're going to make it a 3-day event, make it a 3-day event. So if you're going to do that, then you have to offer all types of sessions for people. If they're going to spend the money to come in on Friday, they need to have something to do, right? So this year I decided to make it into a full 3-day event, in the sense that we have general, breakout, and mastery sessions all 3 days of the event. So the mastery sessions are kind of spread out over the whole weekend. Those are optional 3-hour performance-based sessions where there is an extra fee to them because they are highly specialized and limited to 12 attendees each. So with those sessions and with the breakout sessions, which are also an add-on, those are 90 minutes, also limited to 12 attendees. The mastery session fee is a little higher because they're 3-hour sessions. The breakout session fee is pretty low. We have discounts going on right now, too, for both of those that brought the price down even more. So people can take advantage of those until the end of September. The point is that even if you just came to the event with a general admission ticket for the weekend, or did a 1-day ticket, which we have options for Friday and Saturday for 1-day tickets only, you could just go to the general sessions and have an amazing time and learn so much information. And even though the sessions might be larger than 12 people, there's still not going to be there's not going to be 50 people in each session, because the math just doesn't add up. There's not that many people, So we're looking at maybe 150 this year for our total attendance, maybe 180 if we really get to my goal. But when you do the math and you divide it up with all of the sessions that we have, even the general sessions will be small. So everyone has the opportunity to say, I can't do breakout or mastery sessions. I'm only going to do general sessions this year. Maybe it's your first year going to the conference and you don't have it in your budget to spend any extra money on other stuff. So you just go with the general sessions, and it's amazing because they're all highly tailored to the needs of our attendees. I try to hire guest speakers that are, to the best of my ability, not appearing at every event everywhere. And if they are, then they had to offer something different that they're not offering at other conferences. So the topics will be very unique and different from what you get at any of the other events. And so I think people just really have a lot of options this year. It is a very jam-packed schedule. I'm not good at building in breaks, but we do have breaks this year. So on Friday, it's pretty much a 9 to 12 or 9:30 to 12:30 type of scenario. And then Friday, because we couldn't offer lunch on Friday, but attendees will have like a couple hours for a break on Friday, and then sessions resume, and they go until, sessions go till late at night because we have a social that night as well that's included with general admission, which will be, the Friday night one will be guest speakers kind of introducing themselves and talking about what else they're doing over the weekend, what else they're offering over the weekend. And we'll do our special MAVO Muse Award, which we offer to one person that we think is doing extraordinary things in the industry. And it has a lot to do with positivity and giving back to the industry. We just do one award. We don't do all tons of awards just because I didn't want to be like every other event. So that'll be Friday night. And then Saturday, same idea, sessions all day until 11 p.m. We have another social on Saturday night. I think Saturday night, the social, we're talking about, it's not finalized, we're talking about doing like a game night type of scenario where we have all different games for people to play. And so we'll see how that kind of develops into a finalized idea. And then Sunday is pretty straightforward. It goes like 9 to 5 because that's the amount of time that we have the space for. So sessions go from 9 or 9:30 in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon. And then 3:30 to 5 is the closing and awards ceremony, meaning like we give out prizes and things like that. So every attendee that's present in person is entered into the system to be able to be eligible to win, prizes for coaching and microphones and headphones and whatever we have to give away and stuff like that at the closing ceremony. So it's worth if people can stick around for that on Sunday.
Yeah, I intentionally booked my flight at 9:30 that evening so I could be there for the raffle, because those prizes usually are hugely exciting and everybody is so it's so generous always whenever we get to that point in the day. But I also must mention you have a casting panel and an animation panel on the Friday and Saturday nights before the evening social, as it were. So there's definitely an awful lot going on there. Val, I'm very aware that you're also a full-time French teacher. Talk to us about holding down a full-time job and voicing and running a conference.
Yeah, I'd like to tell people that it's, easy. It's no problem. I got it all covered. That would be the great answer to say. It's not easy. It's a huge task to balance all the, balls in the air at once. And the thing is that I've been a French teacher this is my 25th year of teaching French full time. And it's a career that I've also put so much time into. So for me at this point in my life to say I'm not going to do it anymore, no matter what's happening in voiceover, would be kind of silly, because just for the sake of like retirement and how much I've put into the system, it doesn't make sense for me to not do it anymore. But it means balancing like a crazy person, the amount of stuff that I have going on, because I also have 2 kids and I'm married. My husband, works from home. He's a patent examiner. So luckily for that, because if he didn't work from home, I don't know how things would go, but he kind of gets the kids off to school in the morning and I go to school at about 6 a.m. and I commute an hour and 15 minutes to work and I teach all day. And then while I'm at school teaching, I'm also, brainstorming ideas for MAVO, and I'm multitasking. It doesn't always go well, but but yeah, it's a lot to balance, but I've made it work. And I think the trickiest part for me when we get to this point before the event is trying to balance my auditions, trying to fit in auditions for things. My agents thankfully are going to be at the event this year and they know what's going on. They're in the loop. They understand, what I'm trying to do. And so they're very generous to me. They're very kind and understanding that if I don't submit auditions every day, it's because I just can't, I just have too much on my plate. And so they kind of get that, which is great. I don't know if every agent would be as understanding as they are. So I'm very grateful that I have, a supportive network of people around me. And, and then, I don't know. I mean, I think everyone is always trying to balance their lives, but I think I kind of thrive when I'm doing like a billion different things. But my passion is for this company and for voiceover, and I just love French, so I can't give it up, and I love teaching. I love working with high school kids, and every day is a new adventure. I feel like they keep me young but also drive me crazy, so it's it's great.
I must just comment then, one of the things I was going to say in closing was how great I think this conference is as a first-time conference. I think personally I found it so welcoming and so, again, so much smaller than some of the other conferences, and yet the breadth of things you offer everything is there, everything you could possibly need to know about every different type of the industry. What is your favorite within the genres? Is animation your go-to? Is that your thing?
Oh, absolutely. My dream is to be on an animated series, and I don't care if it takes me my whole life to make that happen, but I just want to be given the opportunity to be able to audition for things that are right for my voice and that are right for my acting skills, and give me the chance to put my creativity out there in all of the characters that I've developed over the years. So yeah, absolutely. Animation is what I love more than anything. And it's really the genre that I spend the most time working on, even though I know that there are other genres of voiceover that I could do, like e-learning and, especially children's e-learning and, audiobooks. I could definitely fall into that category. I'm great at storytelling, and, it's tough, but I think that for me, with everything else going on in my life, I know that if that's my ultimate goal, to be on an animated series, then that's kind of like what I'm going to keep working towards in voiceover. That's until I make it happen, and then book another one and another one, and that's my dream. So
yeah. Fantastic. I'm very aware that you have set up a breakout session up against my breakout session, which I'm not taking personally. No. I was really wanting to ask. Your breakout session is called Let's Play. What's the thought behind it, and what could people expect?
So yeah, it was kind of a last minute throw it on the schedule type of scenario. I came up with this idea because that's how I am. I always have trouble sleeping. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. It's not a good thing. But when I can't sleep, sometimes that's the time of night when I'm like, oh, it'd be a great idea, this. And 9 times out of 10, it's not a good idea. Okay. But occasionally it's something brilliant. And this was one of those times when I was like, let me think about this again when I'm actually like really fully awake. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the Barbie movie, which is amazing if you haven't seen it. But I went to see that with my daughter. Going into it, I thought, oh, this is going to be like a fun. Like I loved Barbies growing up, and I thrived playing Barbies as a kid. Okay, I had like so many, and we had every single one had a different name, and they had characters, and they had this whole life storyline, and like it was very intense. So it was like more than just like I'm playing Barbies. It was a whole story, and I think that was something also too that kind of like developed who I am today. But anyway, seeing the Barbie movie kind of like sparked this idea for me. Actually, is that sometimes when I'm in the booth and I'm doing auditions for animation or for whatever, I just get in my head. I feel like I'm at the age that I'm at in my life, in the middle of my life, and I am not allowed to play. I'm not allowed to be silly, even though with my children and my husband and my close friends, they see that kind of playful side of me that's creating characters and being crazy. But the rest of the world, in the teaching world, sometimes they see it, but most of the time it's just straightforward, like, oh, we're learning French. And so it made me think, if I'm having this struggle in the booth sometimes of getting too in my head and not being able to let myself play, then maybe other people have that issue too. So the Let's Play theme came from that. And so the class is literally going to be warm-ups and ideas of things that you can do to get yourself out of your head and allow yourself to play in whatever the situation is, whether it's a commercial audition, whether it's an animation, whether you're getting ready for demo prep or whatever, you have a coaching session and you're freaking out, whatever the case might be, allowing yourself to have that freedom to play in your own space and just be whoever, you need to be at that moment, like to create something really unique so that you can book more auditions. So I don't want to give away too much information, but there's going to be some Barbies involved. Yeah, there's definitely going to be, there will be some Barbies. There will be some toys. There will be a lot of fun. So it's going to be a fast, 90-minute breakout of just learning how to allow yourself to play and using that to help you with your voiceover booking techniques,
Yeah. I think play is so important. It's certainly something that I forgot when I first started. I became so serious about needing to ensure that I was being seen to fulfill the requirements, that actually remembering to relax and remembering to play was how I remembered to enjoy. And in enjoying, I then gave a better performance. It is such an important part of the whole thing. Well done you for thinking of it and offering it, because it's not something we get an opportunity to do or something that I've seen offered at any other conference. So that's fantastic. Val, is there a favorite part to this whole thing? And don't say the day it finishes, because I can imagine you lying down on the Monday going, oh my God.
That's actually my least favorite part is the end because I feel like it's tough because I worked so hard to get to where, to make it happen, that when it's over, you're like, oh, I got to hang out for 3 days with all my favorite people. And then when everyone leaves, it's just like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do now? And then I'm like, 5 seconds later, I'm like, well, got to start planning 2024, Um, so yeah, the end is definitely not my favorite. I love the Thursday night before it really starts, because even though it's crazy and I'm running around putting swag bags together and, making sure everyone gets picked up at the airport and, and whatnot, I think that's my favorite time of the event, just because everyone is kind of chill at that point. We're excited for what's about to happen, and it's just, I can't really describe the feeling. It's so exciting to be able to host something like this and to, offer unique sessions that are not everywhere. And I want people to just, we've described it before as a large voiceover family reunion. And I think it's exactly what it is. You just feel like I get to see you, and I get to see Sean, and I get to see all the other people, and meet new people that I've never met before that are guest speakers. And it's a very exciting thing to look forward to. So I think just before it starts is my favorite part of it.
Yeah, I think you're right that idea of a family reunion really does kind of echoes for me, because it's, even though there are people there that I've never met before, by the time the 3 days are over, and it is 3 full days, as you mentioned, there is nothing but opportunity to find yourself sat at a table with people going, what's your story? And how did you get here? And what do you know? And what sessions have you been to? And we commented the other day, you do those Zoom sessions, the coffee sessions that you organize through MAVO. And
Yeah.
I was on one last week, and we were talking about, I said I found that when I went to the first one, I couldn't get to every single session. And again, and I knew no one, I absolutely knew no one at that conference. And I'd managed to make 3 friends that I'm still friends with, who we ended up sharing, if you go to this session, I'll go to that session, and I'll see you at lunch, and you can tell me what you heard, and I'll make notes. And I was like being back at college, like swapping notes with people to see how much information you could garner, because it really is, that's what conferences are about, isn't it? It's about going to as many different talks as you can, finding out as much as you can about different people. And what's lovely that there are so many people speaking at your conference, and a couple of them I didn't know at all. And it's been really nice kind of investigating investigating them online, finding out more about them and their story and their history, and understanding exactly why you'd ask them to come along, because they seem fascinating. And just to be able to see different faces and different voices and different experiences, everybody's journey into this world of voice is so fascinating and so very different. There doesn't seem to be a standard path, does there? So, I think just huge congratulations to you for what you undertake every year, and long may it last. I hope this allows lots of people to find out more about you and about the conference, and hopefully come along. Val, unless you've got any last minute thoughts for anybody on the fence about coming into to Dulles, Washington for this conference in November.
No, I mean, I think I would love for you all to come. It's going to be a great event. And, Anna is one of our guest speakers this year, so she's offering different sessions that she can talk about. And, one of the things that I think really stands out to me that has become even more developed as the years have gone on is that it's performance-based. I went to another conference in 2023, and it was a great event. And some of the sessions were like, oh, these are going to be about performance, and that gave me the impression that I was going to get to perform and kind of get feedback from the person running the class. But it was really more talking about the performance and learning about the performance. And so for me, I wanted to really make sure that it was clear to my guest speakers that I hired for this year that those breakout and mastery sessions especially are performance-based, meaning you get to go in, you get to learn new information, you get to perform, you get to get feedback. And because that's the entire goal of the event, is to be able to gain new skills and be able to take what you learn at this amazing event and be able to go into your studio and nail those auditions because, you've fine-tuned skills or you've gotten feedback from these amazing instructors that have so much experience in the industry. They're offering such valuable, tips and tricks and things like that you might not have known before. And so the performance-based thing is a great reason for people to attend, and yes, it's an investment to go to a conference. I get that. It's, if you don't live locally, you have to fly in, you have to stay in a hotel, you have to pay for the registration and blah, blah, blah. But it's all a tax write-off. So, so in the end, it's actually worth it. I don't know. I mean, that's just, there are just so many reasons to come. But I'm just saying, people say to me like, oh, it's a big investment. And I'm like, it is, but actually it is something you guys have to think about. It's all a tax write-off. It's a business, part of your business. So, think about that when you're trying to balance that budget and say like, can I fit this into my schedule? And if you can't come for the whole weekend, come for one day. Give it a trial run and say, I'm going to come in just for Friday. If you're local, especially if you want to just come in for Friday or Saturday, that's a great way to test it out. I mean, we had so many last minute one-day registrations last year. I was floored. I was like, what? It would be like 4:30 in the morning. Someone would register and I'm like, oh, I got to make a name tag. Hold on.
People are terrible at leaving things to the last minute, aren't they? And I think you're right. I think it does look like a large amount of money, but when you actually think about how much it costs for a single hour with some of the people that are speaking at the conference, and you get them plus 6 other people that you could go and see for free during that day, all included, I should say. I think it's worth every penny. It really is. And it really did give me the start I needed to be able to see what the industry was about and which bits I wanted to pursue. Brian has very kindly come up and joined us. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming up to the sofa. Did you have a question or a thought?
Yes. Hello, Anna. Hi, Val. Specifically to Val, what was it like for you to have the spark of an idea for a conference and making that transition to making it actually happen? What was the biggest hurdle for you? Was it like, oh my God, I'm putting all of these reservations for hotels on my credit card, and what if nobody shows up? What are the struggles for you in starting this thing?
Yeah, I mean, it was that first year was crazy. It was just trying to figure out how to price it and how to get people to know who I was, to be reputable in the industry, because I was already, booking work at that point, but it didn't mean that anyone knew who I was. So I had to become really active on social media to try to get my name out there and try to develop a reputation. And then after that first year was a little easier. It was a progression. But yeah, I think from the time of the idea developing to it actually happening, it was the biggest hurdles were, making my company into an LLC and figuring out how to do that, and figuring out how to, all the business side of it for me was the biggest challenge, I think. Just figuring out the pricing and where to host it, and just all of those details that go into it that you don't necessarily think about all of that when you're like, hey, I have this idea, let's start a company. And based on a creative idea, it has to be more developed than that. So it was a big learning curve that first year. And the second year, and probably the third year too.
Yeah, I came in a little late too, so forgive me if you've already talked about this. But how do you pick what topics you want to include in the the event? Are you like planning the event that you want to go to? Is it like,
Kind
yeah? What do you do?
Kind of. It's so from one year to the next, I take a lot of feedback and input from people from one event to the next and say, like, who would you guys like to see at a future event? And then I think the biggest challenge, like I've said before, is that I I don't want to hire everybody that goes to every event, which is hard because it it seems like the people that do the conference circuit, so they go from, VO Atlanta to One Voice to WOVO to where, like, they just do the circuit. And I get that. That's great, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I wanted to hire people that don't do all of that, and obviously you always have some overlap. You have to. You can't avoid the overlap. It's impossible. I tried. But I hire people and I offer sessions that I think that people will be interested in. I also offer sessions that I, hire people that I want to learn from, and selfishly, kind of. Uh, choosing the keynote speaker is kind of where I start from with Serena Irwin this year as a casting director. I had been asking her for like 2 years to be the keynote, and she finally agreed to it because I'm scrappy and I wouldn't give up. But it was one of those scenarios where she just is such a busy person, and it was like, how am I going to make it so that this event is appealing enough to you that you want to give your valuable time away from what you're doing to come and spend time with my people? And she finally agreed to it. So that's just one piece of the puzzle, but I always start with the keynote and then I build my roster of people around that. She kind of inspired whoever else I hired.
That's great. Do you set a theme ahead of time? Do you brainstorm with the people? Do you just kind of give them carte blanche and say, I'd love to hear from you? Yeah, I don't know if, like, you set a specific like goal or theme around each year. It'd be great to hear about that.
I think the overall theme of the conference is, get inspired is what we started with in 2014. And we sometimes will have sub themes. Like one year, I think it was 2016, our sub theme was positivity and just really promoting kindness and things like that, which are always kind of sub themes of the event just because that's who I am as a person. This year, I didn't really choose a sub theme. I had ideas early on of like, maybe we're going to go this way, maybe we're going to go that way. And I decided to focus more on just building the content of the event and focusing on that versus trying to add another layer to it, because Get Inspired is a great theme to have and it is relevant every year. I want people to, that's the goal of the event. I want you to get inspired while you're there, and I want you to take that inspiration and apply it to your voiceover career.
Thanks very much for that, Brian. It certainly did, Val. I know that the 2016 T-shirt that I bought, I will be wearing again because it worked. And it does, I think, again, that size and the sense of community that the 3 days brings does inspire you to, reach out to all the people who always say, do reach out to me. And, sometimes people say like, we must get together. And actually at MAVO, it actually feels like you can. And I don't know what the difference is, whether it is that family feel, but everybody seems to be aware that it's a real community there, and that sense of kindness and gentleness certainly comes across. So well done you for leading from the top. Well, thank you again, Brian, for joining us up here. Huge thanks to you for coming along to join us. And I think we've already got 2 people in the chat saying they're already thinking about MAVO 24. So maybe next year we have to have you in kind of March time so that we can give everybody a chance to sign up for the November ahead of time.
Thank you so much for having me on, and I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in November.
This boutique conference was my first conference, and it was a great first conference because of the size, but also for anybody more experienced, it's a wonderful opportunity to actually talk to voices and discuss technique. I know we mostly talk about audiobooks here, but e-learning, corporate narration, there is so much other long-form narration, and you may have a talent for commercials or promos that you don't even know about, and it's a great opportunity to be able to go there and play. Do make sure to have a wonderful week, everybody, and let's go out and be our favorite selves. Take care.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Thank you very much for listening and joining us on this podcast. Do remember to like and subscribe. It makes all the difference. Further details are in the show notes, and if you'd like to work with me or need any further information, do get in touch. Thank you for listening.